Welcome, everybody, to the Rethink Podcast. We give all kinds of wonderful advice around here.
Conspiracy theories.
Medical advice, all kind of useless, well, it's not useless information, but it's
No.
not our field of expertise. Do we have one? This is a question. People are wondering. At the Rethink Podcast today, I turn it over again to our new co-host, who's just going to be known as the host from now on.
He's given a new title.
Whoa.
Comes with a significant...
What's been better with him here?
It has.
I think it has. We've actually get to the content.
I wasn't sure if that was a question.
No, it
wasn't
either. A statement.
Don't you think we should start out pointing out that we're missing someone again?
Who?
Did he get fired again?
I had noticed.
Oh.
I wasn't going to say anything because he's so sensitive.
He's kind of an emotional roller
He
coaster.
does. I actually think that's why he's not here.
He just gets his feelings hurt, and I just got tired of it.
In fact, he was here this morning, and then he just left.
He doesn't have feelings.
All right, moving on.
Maybe we should focus on something that I think we're all maybe a little better at.
I don't know.
Studying the Bible.
Nah, I'm all about Andrew's feelings,
We're good at insulting each other.
which I heard last week was a form of flattery.
Absolutely. Love.
If I'm not insulting you, I don't love you.
Speaking of love, Levi,
Okay,
Where are we going, Levi? Let's go.
so
Let's get it over
this
with.
past weekend, it was all about 1 Corinthians 7. But before we jump into that, I want to lay some groundwork, just reminding people, the listeners, of some study techniques, because there are a couple things that come out that I think will help build upon what you and the
See, I think
one
that's
we shouldn't
more-
name.
That's more our job than his. He's as the host. Is he supposed to teach us?
he's
actually-
literally went from insulting one of us to insulting both of us.
Just
this
took
week.
over the whole show. Hey, dude, it's yours.
In the weeks past, it's been, hey, you did a real good job of context. This week, it's like, hey, neither of you did a good job of context. Let me tell you.
Let me tell you how to study.
I got
Because
one
these guys
thing,
are not teaching you how to study.
and then I got something for you, Jeff, and I got something for
Oh,
you, Matt.
yeah.
So
You know, I got something for you too.
don't
Go
worry.
ahead.
Yes, I'm leaving.
Caleb's ultra
You're just
offended.
declared hopeless. As
I just wish you would have thrown your headset at the camera.
I'd have to pay for it, and it costs too
You
much.
you didn't preach this past weekend,
How do you know?
but well, I don't know. Maybe you did somewhere. But anyway, we'll get there.
Go ahead.
Okay, so real fast, this letter that we're reading is Paul writing about 2 years or so after he founded the church there in Corinth. And so he's writing from Ephesus, and it appears that, he's received a report, but he's also sent a letter, a first letter to them, and then they've responded back, both with an oral report, but also it appears in chapter 7, verse 1, that they've also responded back with a letter. And so just a
So
couple...
you think there's 4 Corinthians letters?
Yes, which is really hard
2
to...
years, huh?
At this point, no, just 2.
I think you're right.
But then
I
the
think
next
you're right.
2 are after that.
You just don't hear
Right,
that very
right.
Yeah. And so keeping that in mind, because
I
we're
think you're right,
piecing-
too.
Thank you, Caleb. We're piecing this together. And the reason I point
He
that
really
out...
does have
Hold on.
8 nicotine patches on. You're way out of character.
I just know I don't have to preach this week, so I'm like, I'm
Please
feeling
relax.
fresh. By the way, happy birthday. I just thought about that. Go ahead.
4 letters.
Oh, okay. I'm still on 4 letters for happy birthday. What? Okay.
No, there's more than that. But go
So as you were reading this section, it really comes out because even going back to chapter 6, the NIV, and I'm assuming the other translations, include quotes, put in quotations. So like when you're reading, pay attention to the details. And also, when we get to chapter 7, verse 1, pay attention that there's also some background context coming out. And so those are some of the things you're wanting to pay attention to as you are reading, because it really is something that we are looking upon. And so,
Can I ask a question real quick?
yeah,
Jeff, does your Bible quote it?
Does it have quotation marks? You mean?
Those are real small marks. Just a moment.
like chapter 6, verse 12.
612. So this is the 1980 version of the NIV. Everything is permissible for me. That's quotes, yeah.
Well, like in 7:1, does your Bible
Oh,
quote?
yeah,
It is good
7:1.
for a man not to marry.
Yeah.
Because my 1984 NIV does not,
Really?
but the new NIV does.
Huh.
That's why I
So
was curious about that.
in the text line, mine does not, but in the footnote, it is.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So and that is definitely an interpretation.
Hear that.
Remark.
So they're making a statement that this is from the letter they wrote to him, the report they gave to him.
That's what it seems like. Yeah.
No, I agree. I was just curious because I noticed through this week that some did and some did not, and so I was curious your take on that. But I just heard it.
Several people actually, I think, noted that.
That's one of the exciting things about this, and I think it's in part because this manual that he prepared and the reading group that people are participating in, there is a ton of engagement. And people are asking questions like that, which just signifies that they're reading the text, they're studying. So these study tips are good because that's what we want. I mean, people need to get engaged in the text themselves, and a big part of what we're trying to do is to help them be more effective in that.
To me, that's like, I mentioned it this morning, like in one of our meetings. Like, it's so fun to just say, "Hey, open up to week 4," and people are already like, they got their Bible open, they got their notebook open. Like, it's cool, it's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeff, now it's your turn.
Okay.
Last week in our Discipleship Training Institute course on the Book of Acts, you were talking about prescriptive versus descriptive. Would you want to elaborate a little bit on that? Because that, I think, applies to as we jump into this section.
Nah, not really.
Okay. Here are your notes from last.
Oh, Levi
Thursday.
came prepared.
That's my notes. Wow. So in DTI
trying-
class,
yeah.
we're going through the book of Acts, and Acts is a historical narrative. It's slightly different than an epistle or letter, but a historical narrative. If we read that like just pure history, we have to ask ourselves what the things that are included in the story. Okay, is it just describing an event that took place, and so we're getting information, or is it prescribing something that they and then we are supposed to do? Here's a for instance. The one we looked at was in chapter 1. Excuse me. Judas, one of the 12 apostles, hung himself. And Peter says to the gathering, which is noted there to be about 120, in the upper room, right before the descent of the Holy Spirit on the day of Pentecost. So in that little window of time there, Peter says, we need to replace Judas so somebody can help us to testify to the resurrection. And they have some criteria there. They need to be men who have been with Christ from the beginning, who are eyewitnesses of these things, and eyewitnesses of the resurrection. And so they have 2 that they bring forth. Matthias is the one that ends up being selected by this weird process of casting lots. So the question is, should we be selecting our leadership by casting lots? Is this descriptive of the thing that they did or prescriptive of what we should do? So we went through a series of filters, tests to help us determine, is it descriptive or prescriptive? If it's prescriptive, it's instruction from either God, a prophet, because now we'd be going including Old Testament here, or an apostle, one of those selected by Christ, or the addition of Paul for this letter, as one, he says, abnormally born. So different kind of process for being an apostle, but an apostle nonetheless. So God, a prophet, or the apostle speaks instruction for us, then that leads us to question, is this prescriptive? Could be something that we're supposed to follow too, as opposed to just describing historical events. I think you picked some of that up in Corinthians too.
That's probably where you're headed.
Yeah. Some of the things that are going on here are because of cultural issues. And we talked about that last week in some of the parts about yours. The whole remain single issue. Culturally, we understand persecution was amping up from the Romans, from Nero. And the people of the city, Paul's advice to them is it's a lot easier to deal with difficulty when you're single than when you're married. So if you're single, stay single, because the times are going to get tough.
Yeah, it's verse 26, I believe.
Right. And so, but if you take that out of context and make it prescriptive, for everybody, it's better you remain single. That's not what he's saying at all. But in this kind of situation, descriptive, it's better if you'd remain single. So that's a little interpretive thing. We added to that at the end, principled. Like, is okay. So it's not prescribing something for us to do; it's describing something for us to do. But are there principles in it that we need to retain? And we went to where did we go? Acts, the communal living, 4 and 5.
Yep.
They sold everything and shared it, lived in communal living. What's the principle there? Because it's describing something that happens. It's not prescribing that we should do it. But is there a principle to learn? The principle is we take care of each other.
Yep.
We help meet each other's needs. That's biblical fellowship. So those three, descriptive, prescriptive, and
That's a cool or cool
you caught me prepared.
Well,
That's last week's DTI.
with notes.
I didn't read them though.
No,
Made all
you
that
did
up.
Great. But so that's kind of like one of the approaches for today is really trying to maybe take a little bit broader focus on chapter 7. Well, really the end of chapter 6 and the beginning, the whole chapter 7 of like what are some principles we have, because both you and Andrew did, talk a lot about what's actually going on in the text in the sermon. And
And
so,
it's really going to hit next week too, right?
yeah,
We won't do that today. But food sacrificed to idols.
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, Matt, you did a great job last week, including that.
I hit up on Venmo earlier just so he'd say that.
Setting up two different
Roger,
views.
that's a digital. Go ahead.
No, you set up two views that were going on in the larger context when it came to sexuality. Do you remember?
Whenever, with
Yeah.
whoever, and never will I ever.
Yeah.
Did you make that up?
Yeah.
That's original with you.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm sure somebody else has said it, but
So when I say it, I'm not going to say you said it, but
yeah,
it's pretty good. If you made that
Somebody
up,
else.
I like it. Whenever with whoever,
and the never will I ever.
never will I ever.
I actually think it originated from my youth minister growing up as a kid. He's the one that gave me the fireplace illustration.
That's a long time ago. So don't
Dude, that was-
take it as yours.
I listened to that this morning. I really enjoyed the fireplace.
I remember being in 7th
I'm
grade
gonna start using that.
and him we're in a life group, and he was talking about fireplaces.
Mm.
So
That's cool.
stuck
That
with
was
me
good.
for 20 years.
Good sermon, but that was a good illustration.
Yeah. So those are the two predominant views, or easy, maybe, I don't know, extremes that are coming out
Right.
in this culture. And so, and the whenever, whoever really applied to the men. Not so much necessarily the women, but specifically the men.
Hold on a
Right.
second. I don't know that you had a lot of time to elaborate on that, but I heard you talk about that. Could you elaborate on just that specific thing that Levi just mentioned?
With men,
Yeah, the cultural custom for men and the acceptable freedom, sexual freedom.
well, yeah, I mean, they had no rules. I mean, hardly at all. I actually spent some time talking to you about it. You might be more equipped to kind of talk about specifically, I guess you're referring to the relationship that men had with
Anyone,
anyone. There was literally no limit, male or female.
right? Double standard, extreme.
Yeah.
Except
women-
for,
That's the safest place.
I'd say, except for the only thing that was maybe frowned upon was if it was a wife of another man.
Right.
But it wasn't because you were having sexual relationships with the woman, but it was because you were impinging on the property
The thing
of
that's-
the other man. Like
Before-
that was,
You're betraying another man.
yeah, that was actually the issue. But yeah, I mean,
and also,
prostitutes
like,
were fine.
there also was this cultural thing that, like, we just didn't talk about it. We just kind of just did it. Kind of like today. Like, we don't talk about it. And that's kind of the approach that they took culturally too, is everybody knew this was going on. It's not something we openly talked about. But
But
it was
a wife was limited to her husband because really she wasn't for pleasure; she was for propagation,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, in the Greek world,
Messed up.
a little bit more so in the Greek world than the Roman world, I think. Some ancient source talked about how there were like 3 types of woman. And yeah, it was like you had your wife for raising children, but you had prostitutes for everyday pleasure, and then you had courtesans for entertainment, especially at the dinner parties that might come up next week. in the section on 1 Corinthians 8
like
through 10.
Herodian,
Right.
So,
for instance,
The thing-
dancing before Herod.
yeah.
The thing is, like that philosophy is even prevalent today,
Mm.
and depending on the culture you live in.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no male commitment to the home
Mm-hmm.
or to the consequences of your act. Right. You're not responsible for the children. That's mama's problem.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
And-
cultures like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so right at the end of chapter 6, it talks about how, and you reference this in your sermon, how the body is not made for sexual immorality, but for the Lord. And then it goes on to say, you were bought with a price. You are not your own. You are the, Lord's,
Mm-hmm.
So there seems to be a principle here, a larger principle of like a sexual ethic. What would you guys say to that? Like what comes out in the New Testament of how are we as Christians supposed to honor God with our lives, with our sexual lives? What does that ethic look like?
One man, one woman, together as husband and wife for a lifetime.
Ephesians 5 verse 21.
Genesis 2.
Right.
Yeah, that absolutely comes out. But even, I guess what I'm going for too, even more than that, it's everyone has to submit this part of their life to the Lordship of Christ.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that Jeff and I talked about later in the week was, hey, remember it takes two. If this is really going to work, it's going to take the man and the woman both being submitted to the Lord and submitted to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the simplest way that you said that was memorable and profound. It's not me, it's we
Mm-hmm.
in all areas of life.
Yep.
That's what you enter into with a biblical covenant relationship of marriage. It's not me, it's we. So my responsibility is to serve my partner and vice versa, right? It works really well if you're both following that covenantal contract.
Mm-hmm.
Not me, but we. That's good. But I think the other element of this, Levi, that's important to note, he's calling them to fidelity to God.
Mm.
Right. And so if they're not married, there's also a reining in of the sexual freedom, be it heterosexual or homosexual, that they were expressing in that culture. Because we remember we got the temple of Diana at the top of the hill. We got the temple of Apollo at the bottom, which was rampant homosexuality.
Yeah.
And he's reining that behavior in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the sexual relationship is a gift from God to be expressed in and only in the bounds of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're homosexual, we're not even going to argue whether you're created that way or not. That's not the Paul's discussion will be for you to abstain. Because sexual relations is to be expressed inside of the bounds of marriage, a man and a woman as husband and wife together for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Period. That's just what God says.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up the sexual ethic here, specifically with the end of chapter 6, before we, even moved into chapter 7, because that is universal across the board for all of us, whether young or old, male or female. It is this sense that like that is a part of our life that we have to submit to God, to His Lordship.
It's not our primary driver or identity.
Yeah. Elaborate more on that, because that was,
That's what the lie our culture's telling us, and that's the lie that was going on in this culture is you are your sexual desire. That's just not true. And I think that in doing so, it leads us down a really dangerous path of talking about, I go into sexual preference, right? Like it leads us down this path of going in one of these directions, and it's like, wait a second, we're not supposed to go down that direction at all. Our primary identity is a child of God's, and because of that, we submit even even everything under His lordship, right, including this. So
That is the identifier that defines everything that follows.
yeah,
So that has to come first.
yep,
And you see culturally people slapping on titles of all kinds of things.
mm-hmm.
I am blah, 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 blah. Christ follower has to come first. Child of God comes first. And that defines
Everything else
everything
flows
about
out of that. Yeah.
that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really thought both you and Andrew did well at capturing that sense of that identity drives. And so, marriage is a gift, singleness is a gift, and there's a place for both gifts in the church. So what I was wondering about maybe today or the rest of it was what would be some more practical things coming out of this section that drive how we should live today. And I know there were a couple different things that you mentioned in the sermon, even your little, tangent that you weren't intending to, but
Depending on what service you went to, you got that or not. I just, I don't even know. Yeah. We give our kids like the screen, right? We're talking about being discipled by screens and culture, because you talk about two temples, despite bottom of the hill, top of the hill. That's great for them. That's where they went in a lot of ways to express themselves in this way. We don't have to go to a temple anymore. We're carrying around all of this in our pocket. And I was just struck because, my daughter's got some friends who are, 5th, 6th grade, and they all come over to our house and they all have a newer iPhone than me. And I'm like, this is so weird. I mean, and so for us, the rule at our house is you leave it on the kitchen table. And if you need to get a hold of mom or dad, you just walk over there and you grab it and you can use it at the table. But we don't give our kids screens because we want to make sure that they're not given the world at 10 years old, 11 years old, And so I just kind of wasn't really planning on going on that tangent, but just kind of felt like we were being led down
We
the trail.
finally gave Malachi a phone with parental control access
Right.
on his 15th birthday. And he's literally like one of the last in the whole school to get one.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking, wow, that's amazing.
I was 18, getting ready to go to college.
That was a long time ago.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is right now they're fifth,
My mom and dad got
grade.
a bag phone for the car when I was in college.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
but we've got to get a handle on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they are literally given the world and said, "Hey, navigate this at 10 years old." Their brains aren't functioning enough to even begin that,
Right.
and then we're wondering what's happening to them.
That
Why they're
dovetails
confused.
into another element of things that I thought you alluded to. You didn't have time to spend in detail there. Though was just the blessing of following this instruction from the beginning, in a relationship is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you talked about the damage, the baggage some folks have to carry, whether it be their choices or something that people did to them, in regards to sexual things, and it's heavy. And it's for some folks, it stays with them for a lifetime, right? To follow this instruction as an unmarried person, a young person, to remain abstinent, to not have sex, however graphic, we need to get into the details of this, but it's such a freedom later in life. Because if you follow by God's design, the way this is supposed to work in a relationship, then it becomes a blessing and not a burden or a problem or a source of pain or regret or a whole host of negative emotions. If we could just help young people understand, hold on to your virginity.
So they're saying
It's a gift. It's a gift, not a curse, right? Hold on to that because
they're saying less than 10%.
right. We talked about that, and I thought, okay, so what's changed? There's a couple of things that are very practical that I think we would call them advances, but I don't know that they are. So let's say in 1900, you didn't have a lot of safe sex practice help. There wasn't ways to prevent pregnancy easily. Levi did point out to me they had abortion. It's always been in existence. The Romans did abortion, right? But it was much more dangerous.
What did we say? Was it in 1990? It was how many people? Was it 80% said that they were virgins in 1980 when they got married, or 1900? By 1980, it was less than 14%.
Right. the fear of the repercussion of having children was lessened. And so there's another boundary removed, another, because the temptation, the desire for sex is not new, right? That's always been there. God created that. That's a good thing, just within the bounds that He's
The
established.
fireplace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so that's not a new thing. So we can't look at the statistics purely and say, well, we're just a crazed culture. No,
So like what I was
we're
reading
just
was, like,
dropping our boundaries and our limitations because we're removing consequences. We think we are removing.
right, but that's a result of things becoming incredibly more digital, and it's a result of lack of parenting in the home. All of those things are coming to play. You have parents who, in the 1900s, I have to look at the data, but my guess is that more people were following the Lord then culturally. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just think that it's part of it. Partially, it is lack of parenting. It is lack of desire to follow the Lord.
It's a major part of lack of parenting.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday and this was specifically for just the percentage of people in the world that use OnlyFans, that subscribes to that. And they said
Here's what?
OnlyFans. So I don't really know what it is, but 90% of it
Don't Google it.
is pornographic.
All of it is, isn't it?
This lady said at least 90% of it.
Okay.
Because some people will claim that like it's, not, but at least 90% of
Social
it.
media thing.
But she said 500 million people every day use that website. And then that would be 150% of the American population. So
How much percent?
150. So take our population in America, and then half of that again. That's how
One
many
out of
people
every
use
8
it.
people in the world.
Use it every
Wow.
day. And so she was talking about that, just how of a big deal that is in our world. And yeah, that was the point. I mean, like the digital world has greatly changed. Like their culture is similar in the sense of, we either, the sexuality and everything is all around us, just like back then, but now it's digital. And so it is different.
And it's removed the person on the other end of the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, it's objectified.
So,
Right.
so that's what that's what I was referring to. He's removing the consequences in the short term,
Right.
right? Be it your parents finding out or having to be known
I mean, growing up as a kid, that was enough for me.
or getting pregnant,
Right.
right? If you're not worried about getting pregnant anymore. I mean, those are all what he's deceiving us to think that the consequences aren't that great anymore. But we're destroying hearts and lives and emotions and minds. I mean, just utterly destroying them. We've counseled people that they're devastated because of things they participated in or somebody did, and the scars are real. The pain is real. And the enemy has lied and said it's going to be okay. You're going to get caught. There's not going to be a consequence.
But that's a total tactic of the enemy
Totally
on everything.
lies.
What God has meant for good, he just distorts and changes, and it's a strategy. And so, like, when you approach this text, I was telling Jeff this, like, that's why, like, when Paul gets into the weeds here, in a lot of ways, I just try to stay away from that, because in that setting, in that room with all these different people who have been hurt by this, so much of their story affects how they enter into this relationship, and there's a lot of weight here, a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 out of 3 women have been hurt by this, 1 out of 4 men. That means, if I did my math right, about 500 men and women in the room yesterday who have been hurt by this in some way.
Yeah. I will say, just if you want to look
Jeff's
for a couple of
checking
reasons.
the math in his head right now.
No, I'm just trying to process
Oh, I
what
know.
that means. The total mass volume of the pain there is
We were sitting at lunch yesterday, after doing this 4 times, and I had my 6th grader in the room, which was a whole nother new thing for me, because normally she's been in the kids area, and I'm like, I want her to hear this, and I want her to hear it the right way from her dad on a stage in a church, right? You know what I mean? But I said, "Hey, did you pay attention today?" And she said, "Yes." That's all she said. And I said, "Hey, I said something. I said something I want you to remember." And she's like, "Okay." And I said, "I jokingly said your mom was incredibly picky." And I said, "I just want you to remember that because I'm so glad that she was. It saved her and me a whole lot of heartache because she was. And I want you to be the same way."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why she doesn't have a phone. And that's why you try to navigate these conversations as you can. But no one's perfect in it either.
I would recommend. We do have Right Now Media, and while it's not going to solve every issue, there are plenty of resources on there and video series and different things that you can watch to help navigate some of these topics. And then also Defend Young Minds is another good resource. But yeah,
Is it a website?
yeah, it is a website. That one.
DefendYoungMinds.com.
Yes.
.com.
I didn't write that part down.
Going back to your data though, like you were sharing about percentage wise of people on that website. Like if there's somebody that's out there that's struggling in that way, you need to rein that in.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can reach out, Matt@ChristChurch.com, and I can help you find somebody. But you got to do that because that's going to destroy your marriage. It just is. It's not okay.
Caleb, any final thoughts?
You guys covered it. Great job.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't say a whole lot on your birthday.
Thanks for that.
Should we have a happy birthday song for you?
No.
Now pull out that mariachi band.
No.
The time is short, brothers. This world in its present form is passing away.
I think, okay, I do have something now since we're at a low point in the conversation. So just reflecting on conversations that we had in our life group last night discussing chapter 7. And so you have a room full of
Right.
messy people. Like we're all, myself included, we're sinners, we're a mess. And so you have people with different life experiences, different hurts, people that it has been one man, one woman together forever, people that has been through divorce and remarried, people that's been through divorce and not remarried, people that's never been married but has been in relationships and hurt. And verse 17 is where a lot of us honed in, because you have all of these people grouped together, regardless of what their past is like. They have found redemption, seeking restoration with Jesus Christ. And verse 17 says, this is NIV 84. So, nevertheless, each one should retain the place in life that the Lord has assigned to him and to which God has called him. As in, obviously, none of us are perfect. Mm-hmm. All of us have screwed up. All of us continue to even screw up. But yet, God is right there with us where we are right now, and he can use whatever situation, good or bad, that you have been through or gone through to bring his glory. And I think that's pretty keen, especially when you talk about the percentage that you just quoted. Like, no matter where you have been, like if you're willing to surrender that to God and surrender your all to God, like he can use that for his glory. So that's my closing thought.
You're 100% right.
Thanks for joining us on the Rethink podcast.